node that's then driving all the way through the rest of the flow, which makes it very powerful. What I'm going to do is, if you guys are interested, I'd like to show a little bit more, kind of get away from the node surfacing for a second, and show one of the new features in Lightwave 9.x is what I'm going to call it. We're shipping Lightwave 9.0 right now. It's $795. You can do I'm going to use the wrong word here, but it's a compatible upgrade, which means that it's not a competitive upgrade where you have to turn in your software. Keep your software that you already have, but if you own another 3D app, you can get Lightwave 9.0 for $495. You don't have to turn it in. It's going to go alongside with the tools that you're already using. But I want to show one of the features that Joseph was talking about when he was up here a few seconds ago. I'm going to load a scene to show that off. Okay. Not only in this scene, I'm going to show the new camera stuff, but I'm also using nodes to displace my geometry, right? So I've got a node editor for my object displacement. Okay, but what I want to show is I'm going to go ahead and do a quick render, but first let me show you the camera properties. I'm using the perspective camera, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick render. Now, it starts off as 2,300 polygons, then goes to 1.49, so just say 1.5 million polygons, just under 1.5 million polygons, and we'll see what the render time looks like. One of the cool things, it's 18.5 seconds, so it's just under 20 seconds for 1.5 million polygons. That's one of the things that they did in Lightwave 9.0 was speed up the rendering, and it allows to handle a lot more geometry. You can throw so much geometry at it, and you get fast render times. Before, I would have never been up on stage showing you 1.5 million polygons in a scene, not even to just load it. I would just be like, and here's a box, and here's a basic object. So this is pretty exciting to be able to see those render times. But one of the things that they've added in 9.x is, it's not in, I'm running 9.0. Give me 1 second. It'll take, I got to load up 9.0. I got so excited I didn't switch apps. Okay, so we were running Lightwave 9.0. I'm going to run codename Ithaca, but it's Lightwave 9.x. And this is some of the stuff that we're showing at the show. So let me load up a quick scene. I'll load up the same scene. And this time we get to see it, an instant replay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a render because I need to be able to show you both renders switching from the cameras. We focused a lot in 9.0 on all kind of new camera tools, and we have a system called the Advanced Camera Tools, and it allows you to build any type of camera lens that exists in the real world, and then any type of camera lens that you want. If I wanted to, I could turn this mouse into a camera, right? The surface of the mouse could fire off rays, and you could use that as a camera. So 15.2 seconds to render the geometry. Now, what I'm going to do is go back to my camera properties, and I have it set to perspective. I have the advanced camera tools, and this window allows me to build any type of camera lens that I want. Again, I can use geometry, I can use items in the scene, I can use a null as my camera. I can use multiple objects as cameras to have where the ray starts and where it fires to. I can change, if I wanted to, I could do a fisheye lens or go beyond fisheye and do 360, right? So with this panel, you can go in and create just about any lens that you can dream up. But where it really comes in handy is to create the real lens camera. Now, the real lens camera is taking advantage of the system that they built for the advanced camera tools, except this is what I love. Joseph was up here earlier, and we showed this to him yesterday. And so I'm going to use the same settings he gave me. I said, okay, what kind of camera do you have? And he's got I got a Canon SLR, right? But if you had a Nikon or a Kodak, we've got all these different lenses, all these different brands. So I'm going to pick the one that Joe picked, and he said he had a 5D. So I'm going to pick that. And these basically are filters. If I set this to all, and for my lens, I have all of these, right? that's a little too much for me to weed through, so I'm definitely going to take advantage of the filters. I'm going to go to Canon SLR, go to the 5D, and for my lens, he said a 28-135. Okay, so I just changed my Lightwave camera to a real-world camera. Now, I'm going to render, and then I'll explain why this is such a big deal. I'm really excited about this. So it's going to crunch through 1.5 million polygons. Also in 9.0, while this is up, we enhanced the render status panel so you can get a lot more information. You get a nice little progress bar. You can find out what the last render time was so that you can compare render times. And you also, when you do a sequence, it'll have a progress bar for individual frame that's currently rendering and the entire sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now, this is subtle, so you have to look for it, but that's kind of the point. Okay, I'm going to toggle back and forth. Can you see the slight bit of distortion? And can you see the vignetting, the darkening around the edges here? Okay. Well, that's what happens with a real camera, right? The bending of the lens is going to get it a little bit darker around the edges, and the distortion is going to take place. Now, why would you want this? Well, I can think of a lot of reasons. First, even if you were doing an all CG image, if you want to try and make it look more photorealistic, well, use a real camera lens, right? But where this really comes in handy, Joe was talking about how sometimes he'll just go and take a photo of something, and then he'll comp his 3D in with his photography. Well, if you want to match it perfect, use the same. He's got this camera. He can use the same camera lens. He doesn't have to worry about the distortion or the vignetting. Companies like Zoic are excited about it because what they do is they take and get background plates for shows like Battlestar Galactica and CSI. They get background plates, and they have to match their 3D to those background plates. So what they normally do before this system is that they would go in and render out a Lightwave, feed it over to a flint or flame system, do the distortions and the vignetting in the flint or flame, and then send it back over to composite, and then they'd be done. You can imagine if you take that step out of the pipeline, you've just sped up your workflow, because you can just render right out of Lightwave with the exact lens. And, of course, when they do shows like Battlestar Galactica and CSI, they're getting the information of what camera was used, what lens, what was the distance, and those kind of things. So they have all the information they need, and now they can plug it right into this real camera lens. One of the things that's also exciting about this is right now we have all these cameras, but we're not limited to what's here. If Canon comes out with a new type of camera and a new lens, well, remember, this whole system is based off of the advanced camera tools where you can build any type of camera lens that you want, right? So you can take a box and make that a camera lens. You can take a 3D model of a face and make that a camera lens, which is pretty wild and exciting. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this presentation of Lightwave 9, but we're going to be showing a whole